to welcome to the P2P pre-go live training for shoppers and requesters. This is an exciting time for all of us and our first of 3 trainings this week to get you ready to go live on Monday, 1/26/26. So my name is Sarah Rumiano. I am a strategic advisor with the core team. And I'm here to kind of welcome you and also to introduce you to Brian Grushko. He is with our implementation partner, Rise Now, and he will be taking us through the trainings this week. So without further ado, Brian, take it away.
Sure. Happy kind of Monday to everybody. Hopefully everyone enjoyed their nice long weekend and is looking forward to the the exciting things that lay ahead over the next few weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and share our deck here. So you're seeing day in the life, correct? Perfect. So, today's course is the day in the life of shoppers and requesters. So we'll go ahead and dig in. Um, why you folks are here. So, this training is designed for individuals who request or make purchases on behalf of your campus. So, you folks are on the front end of the purchasing process where we have identified some sort of a need and we're going to go into this system and place our order. So during the training today, we want to hopefully help you learn to confidently navigate the purchasing process, understand what responsibilities might lay with you, and also use the system effectively for your day-to-day work. We will have 7 modules. We'll start with a system introduction. Then we'll move on to reviewing punchouts. We'll talk about forms, which would be non-catalog ordering, some cart management tips and tricks, additional shopping and changes to Rex. We'll talk about receiving, and then we'll end with vouchers. So we do have a lot of material to cover today. I'm going to try to move at a good pace, so give folks a chance to follow along. But 2 hours, this is a lot to cover, so we are gonna move. So good thing that it's recorded, and hopefully will be available to folks as a reference tool. Um, Training structure, I will review the content, so we'll talk through some slides. At times I'll do some demo, and we'll see at the end what kind of time we have for Q&A. I don't know what we'll have, but I believe when I was not a presenter that this chat might have been open. Is the chat open or are we closing that? Chat is open, so we do have a couple of experts in the room with us. So if you throw questions in the chat, I'm sure they'll get to it, and if they can't answer it, then they'll probably feel free to poke in and ask me, and we'll get an answer for you.
Hey, Brian, real quick before you
Yep.
get started. Yes, this is being recorded, and the deck and the location for the recording will go to your campus project team, so your implementation team at your campus. And I believe we have a slide at the end that shows you who those people are. If not, we can get one real quick.
I believe that got added the
Oh,
last minute.
fabulous.
Yep.
Okay, thanks so much.
So module 1. We'll talk about our one of our legacy systems, CFS and CSUBUY, and how those two relate to one another. We'll talk about CSUBUY as a whole, go through some basic navigation, and talk about some of the ways that we can manipulate our own user profiles to make life a little easier for ourselves. So CFS and CSUBUY. What we want to talk about here is how those two systems interact with each other. There's a lot of points where they exchange data between one another. So this slide here is a good tool to kind of have handy just to understand when each system is communicating with the other. So vendors, suppliers, data syncs between CFS and CSUBUY, shopping, things like DOA, chartfield, user permissions. That's all coming from CFS. Requisitioning, data checking between the two. Also sending data back and forth between the two in purchase orders and during receiving, invoicing and matching. So there's a lot of communication throughout the entire process between CFS and CSUBUY. For the folks in this call, I think the biggest thing to understand is when we talk about punchouts, how data comes into the system from punchouts and into your order, and how you might need to make changes to that order. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. I just want to plant that seed right now. Sometimes it helps to think about where is data entering this interaction? Is it coming in through CSUBUY? Like ordering information? Is it coming in through CFS and then making its way into CSUBUY, like your profile information? Or maybe it's coming in from a third party like a punch out, and we'll talk about what that means shortly. A little bit more of a breakdown, it's kind of playing off of what I was just talking about, where to do what. So buying, receiving items, supplier direct pays, supplier payments, and reconciliation all live in CSUBUY. Budget checking, student employee direct pays, payment, claims, and 1099 all lives within CFS. Okay, so now we're actually going to start to look at the system itself. Our objectives in reviewing the system are explain the purpose of CSUBUY, identify how the CSUBUY system can benefit your role. I will show you the login. You guys won't log into the system at this point, as well as locate system help and support resources. So what is it? CSUBUY is the implementation of strategic, standardized procurement processes that allows for the elimination of manual touchpoints and steps resulting in efficiencies through automation, risk mitigation, and cost savings for the California State University. In simple terms, we aim to make things easier, more efficient, and standardized. And we have a nice little picture of one of our several home pages. Who uses it? Who is in CSUBUY? So the first two squares are rectangles, are our group today, shoppers and requesters. Shoppers can go in and create carts. They can say, I have a need for this item or service. A requester is essentially the same, and these are your roles. These are assigned to you by your campus administrators and dictate what permissions you have within the system, what you can or can't do. So, like I said, a shopper, you can go in and you can create a cart. You can say, I need this. A requester can do that as well. They can go in the system and they can say, I can do this, or I need this, or I want to order this, but they can also submit that cart. They can put it into requisition workflow where it's actually getting reviewed and approved for order distribution. So shoppers, they can say, I need this, and requesters can say, I need this, and I want to try to order it. So hopefully that distinction makes sense to everyone. Not all campuses use the shopper role. So there might be some folks on here that this won't apply to. There will be other folks that it will. So it's very much campus by campus who is using that shopper role. Approvers, as requisitions, that request for a good flows or service flows through the approval process. Approvers are folks that look at that request and say, yes, it's okay to order this, or no, it's not. Orders are also reviewed by procurement specialists and looked at by accounts payable on the back end. So those are all different folks that play a role throughout the process. I already talked about this a little bit, that difference between shopper and requester. Shoppers can browse catalogs, punch outs, and forms to build shopping carts. However, they cannot submit requisitions for approval. In order for them to do that, they need to send the carts. It's called assigning carts, and we'll review that later, to a requester who will then review it and submit it on their behalf. Requesters are essentially the same as a shopper, but they have that permission built in where they can go in and they can submit the request. Process overview. So, kind of high level, how does this work? We shop, we identify our need, right? And we go in and we build our cart. Then we check out saying, this is what I need, creating that requisition document, which is then sent through approval processes where people look at the order, say, yes, it's okay to spend this money. It's okay to order this good or service. And then it's okay to order this good, spend this money with this supplier. And from there, our purchase order is created and sent to the vendor. Okay, basic navigation. So we're actually going to go into the system and talk about some things like looking at your profile, updating your system notifications, identify some key features of the notification center. We'll talk about setting up defaults, navigate the shopping dashboard, as well as look at some search tools. Um, and I'm going to maybe go through this a little bit quickly so we can get into the actual application. But shopping homepage, number one on the left, you'll hear me refer to the flyout. This is our global navigation. So this is what's going to take you to all the different areas of the application. Different roles can see different areas of the app. So some folks might see some things on that flyout menu that others will not. Number two is our org message that is for your campus. They will have information there specific to you, and it is controlled by the campus. Number three, general announcements. This is at the system level, so it might talk about things like system outages. It might talk about updates and upgrades that we're working on, but that's again at the system level. Number four is one of our search areas. We'll talk a little bit about that, but it's a quick search that can help us navigate quickly to documents, requisitions, purchase orders, vouchers, whatever data we need to find. Quick links. Those are areas of the app that the core team, the leadership team has identified as areas that you might want to go to quickly. And that quick links is on every homepage or dashboard throughout the app, allowing you to get to different areas without having to navigate the flyout. And finally, number six, just kind of some basic um, action items, maybe something that requires your attention or potentially approval, depending on the situation. So how to access our profile, there's a little person in the upper right-hand corner of our screen. By clicking in that, it will take us to our profile. I'll show you that shortly. Setting up our default settings. We'll talk about what this means. Important distinction between setting up defaults and setting up favorites. But what we're looking at here is fields that we can configure as having a default value, meaning as soon as you create an order, this information is going to auto-populate. That might be something users want to do. It might not. That we'll talk about the conditions that make sense for users to use that or maybe pass on it. Personas are another important aspect of the system. Many of the users on this call might need to shop between different business units. Changing personas are what will allow you to shop in the different business units. So, an example that I can use off the top of my head is Fresno State has two business units, Fresno and Frath, and users are defaulted to be in the Fresno business unit, but maybe they need to shop for athletics, so they need to go into Frath. Users are given personas at the role at the profile level through the CFS integration. So you would see any persona that you have access to here. And we'll talk about flipping between them and what extra steps you might need to do when you make those changes. Notification preferences. CSUBUY we have defaulted a variety of notifications for all users. Some might be defaulted to just an email. Some might be defaulted to a notification from the system. Others might be defaulted to both, where you're getting an email and a notification. Many of them are off completely. So we try to tailor this to what we think makes sense for the user base. All of them can be changed by users on their own. So I will show you how to do that when we get into the app. I put the wrong arrow. Sorry, guys. Notification best practices. We do recommend that you leave the defaults on at first. like I said, we've tried to tailor this to you as you get more familiar with your usage of the app, what your role is, then it might make sense to go in and tailor things. For example, someone that is living in the application and usually has it open might not want all of the emails, so they might want to go in and flip all the ones that are listed as email to just in-app notification. Whereas someone that's in the app very rarely, you might want to make sure that they're all getting email notifications that they have a task. Other suggestions are to create an email folder or rule to organize messages just to kind of pull them out of your general inbox. Um, and as I said, adjust them once you kind of know what is useful to you and what is not. Order flyout. So we'll talk about searching, but just for this piece, just know that there's a variety of ways to search for documents within the system, and each different document is going to have its own search engine, but each search engine works exactly the same. It's just tailored to that specific document, whether it's requisitions, purchase orders, change requests, or vouchers. And you can also use that same thing to filter down to items that are related to you. Maybe it's requisitions that you've placed or purchase orders for those requisitions. And I'll walk you through all that here shortly. Okay, so I am going to pull over the app. This is the test environment. I am logged in as a shopper. So this is that base role that can't place its own orders. It can only go in and create carts and assign them to other users. When you log in, you should see that this flyout ribbon on the left-hand side is black. Mine is blue because I'm in the test environment. Just a asterisk with the test environment. We are always working on fixes or changes in here. So sometimes we run into some glitches that would not normally be in production. It's just a product of how we're working in the system to try to build out enhancements and plan for future rollouts. Um, so like I said, our flyout, we have our homepage. This is going to take us to whatever our selected home dashboard is. Shopping, flyout, orders. So my orders would allow me to look at my requisitions, my information. Some folks might need to be in accounts payable down the road. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the suppliers search when we might need to be looking for suppliers here. Um, for now, let's just go up into our user profile. So by clicking on this person, we have this little pop-up window, and I'm going to go into view my profile. And we can look at things like our assigned roles, our assigned personas. What else do I want to show here? Notification preferences. And this is kind of divided out by what area of the application things live in. So maybe I'm talking about shopping carts and requisitions, just wanting to know what notifications are on here. We can see that some are listed as none. For these two, we're getting an email and a notification. And what that notification means, we're getting a little ping up here in the upper right. And then these final three are just notifications. Should I want to change any of these, I would go to the edit section, click the override button, and then select the one that I want, and then save changes. And then I think we want to talk about defaults really quick. So default user settings, custom fields, and account code defaults. This is where we might want to set under the codes tab some like a fun favorite, or if we have a chart field string that we're always using, we only use the one. That's probably the key. We're only using that one. You might want to default it. These will auto-populate into the requisition. Whereas if we put in information in code favorite here, this will be a selectable option that we can switch between. So code favorites, maybe a couple more clicks, but more versatile. So if we're using multiple chart fields or we're switching personas, chart fields, sorry, favorites would make more sense. Code defaults would be if we're really only using one chart field is when I would recommend to use that. All right. So defaults and favorites, I just touched on this. Defaults auto-populate fields when creating requisitions. Good for users who do not use personas. And that says personas often. I would say if you ever use personas, you don't want to use defaults. So again, if you are shopping in different BUs, you are not going to want to use defaults. You would want to look at the favorites on the right. So defaults a faster workflow, but relies on preset choices. Our favorites are saved personal drop-down lists for quick selection, best for users who need options like funds, addresses, etc. Allows for switching without retyping or searching. Best practices, things to keep in mind. We want to start with defaults left untouched until you learn your workflow. Again, adding defaults can create conflicts, so we really want to make sure that we're careful when we do that. It can be a nice little shortcut, but if you are a persona user, I would strongly advise you stay away from the defaults. Use favorites when you need flexibility. Avoid defaulting business units. Hard to edit later. Okay. Always check if your cart is already active. A profile change will not update an in-progress cart. So there are parts of carts that lock when they're created, and when you change personas after that cart's created, you can end up with a conflict that will force you to start over. So more information on accessing our profile, setting defaults. So just kind of understanding where to go in that screen. Code favorites. Again, we've covered this already, but favorites, when you assign it, you can have multiple strings. And so if you're someone that has 4 or 5 different chart fields that you're using regularly, maybe we want to have the flexibility to switch between them quickly. Building them out as favorites is the best way to do that, which will allow you to switch between them very quickly at the requisition when you're modifying the chart field. Ship to and bill to addresses. So ship to, where is the box getting delivered to on campus? Some campuses are doing central receiving with a actual receiving dock. Others might be shipped to the actual person, but that's ship to is where is it? Well, I should say ship to versus deliver to. I apologize on that. Ship to, where is the box physically going and getting opened? And bill to, where's the bill going? These can be defaulted also in your profile. This is much safer than the chart field to default or favorite, so feel free to do that. Key takeaways. Difference between codes and code favorite. Code is it's building a short list or default for single fields. Code favorites full accounting string. Okay. Give the essays maybe a minute to chime in if they have anything else they want to talk about from that kind of introductory level.
Yeah, hey Brian, I don't know. Several people are saying that the screen is a little bit small, so I don't know if you can make it bigger or if it's
Um,
just how it's coming through with Zoom.
was it
Not
the
sure.
PowerPoint or was it CSUBUY?
I
PowerPoint, I
don't
don't know
know.
that I can.
Okay, so maybe next time we do when we
CSUBUY I
see a
can make
Shubai.
bigger.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was CSU by thank you because your
Okay.
PowerPoint looked good. I think it was the screens.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. The one thing that you'll find with CSU BY is that your screen dimensions make a difference. So zooming in and out sometimes changes the size of. So I'm just going to go to shopping home. All of these little squares, rectangles are called widgets. And they're all going to adjust themselves a little bit based off the dimensions of your screen and also how much you're zoomed in or out. So, one tip or trick that wasn't covered in that last bit was early on, you're probably going to want this flyout popped out to say home, shop, orders, contracts, and so on. But there's a little arrow at the bottom. If you want to hide that, you're going to end up getting more screen space to work with, so you can see a little bit more information easily. Just a little trick there. Okay, punch out shopping. What is a punch out? So we want to be able to locate a punch out, add items to a cart within a punch out, and transfer those items from the punch out to CSU Buy. So punch outs are catalogs um, with contracted pricing through vendors. We call it a punch out because when you go to it, you're actually leaving CSU Buy and you're going to a vendor um, maintained portal. It's usually very similar to shopping from that vendor's website. The example that we're seeing here on our screen might be number one, we're saying we need a general good through the guided buying user interface, which takes us to a few options: complete book, specialty, school specialty, staples, and then a form. Those first three down here are punch outs. So we've got the logo for the company. The last one, goods and services. This is some maybe what we need from a different vendor that's not one of our punch out vendors, or what we need is not available through those punch out vendors. So that's when we would complete a non-catalog request through a form. But in this case, we want to talk about punch outs. So why use it? We always get to see the latest pricing and availability. There's no need to maintain the catalogs in CSU Buy. It's maintained by the vendor on their side. It's a faster, easier ordering experience, and items flow back into CSU Buy for approval and payment. So our steps to check out with a punch out. So we need to create our cart first. So we would go to CSU Buy and open the punch out that we want to shop with. We would shop on that supplier's site, filling our cart with whatever we need. Check out on the supplier's site, which then brings that information from the punch out back into CSU Buy. So again, thinking about where that data is starting, it's starting in the punch out. And then we would review our cart in CSU Buy, and if able, submit to approve for approval. If not, we would need to assign our cart based off if we have the shopping role or the requester role. So I'm going to go back into the app. I think that should be big enough for everybody. If not, just chime in if we need to make it bigger. At the shopping homepage, and I'm gonna scroll down to, let's just say, Office Classroom, and I'm gonna go into Staples. Oh, why did I get that? It might be because I'm doing this from, yeah, hold on one second. I'm doing it from an incognito browser. That's probably what the problem is. There we go. So, some punch outs will ask you for information like this to figure out which punch out catalog you should get. Others will recognize it based off your profile. Again, this is all maintained by the vendor. So this is essentially shopping with Staples, right? And we'll go in, we'll pick our item that we need. Just gonna pick a chair, going to add it to my cart. And we have our order summary. We have what we're ordering, and I'm going to submit that order. This then takes us back into CSUBUY, where now we have the beginning of our cart, right? We have our item that we brought in from the punch out, unit price, quantity that we needed. It's going to auto-populate commodity code based off how Staples had that item categorized. We are missing a deliver to location, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. I'm just picking one randomly. And now here we have the option to assign a cart or proceed to checkout. I'm gonna hold there and go back to our deck. The one thing I should add actually is how I was saying, oops, it's not the right. There we go. How I was saying, where does the data start? Let's say I decided I need two chairs instead of one, or maybe I want to order a table or something else. Um, we don't want to modify this line. That information is coming from the punch out. So we need to go back to the punch out to make those corrections. There is this modify items tab right here. That will take us back to the punch out and have this cart saved in that punch out. We want to modify this data in the punch out and then bring it back into CSUBUY. So I just want to restate that because this is an important piece. If we are using punch outs and we need to make changes to a cart that we've already brought into CSUBUY, we cannot make those changes in CSUBUY. We have to go back into the punch out to make those changes. So hopefully that is clear. We do run into those issues sometimes. It does create errors in the ordering process, which will potentially lead to delays in you getting what you need. So I want to make sure that we avoid that. Okay, so that was punching out. Now let's say we need to do a non-catalog order. We need to order from a supplier that's not one of our punch outs. One of our first steps is going to be seeing if our supplier exists in CSUBUY. To do this, we would need to search for that supplier through one of those search engines I mentioned earlier. Um, Here we have just a screen grab of what that search engine looks like. And this is basically the same no matter what you're looking for. If you're looking for requisitions, purchase orders, vouchers, suppliers, it's just the filters are tailored to that type of document. But so number one, we have our quick filters and save searches. Number two and three are statuses for suppliers. Four is a quick search, so maybe I know the name of my supplier and I just want to quickly search for it. Five here allows us to add filters, so if we need to tailor down our data. Um, Eight are headers, and we can use these to change our orders. We can flip these columns around to change the left to right orientation of our data. Six, sorry, I skipped six and seven. Six is save as. So if we create a search that we're using regularly, we can save it under, and it will appear under my searches over here, which will save you the hassle of having to recreate your filters and your ordering and all of that. And seven, this gear here allows us to add, remove, or reorder columns. Just wanted to gloss over that because it's the same for everything, and you'll see it in action here in a second. Supplier profiles. This is a key bit for all the folks on this call. So we've searched for a supplier and we found it, but how do we know that it's active for my campus? Because we've moved to a model where there's one supplier profile for the entire CSU. It's not specific to a campus anymore. So it might be that a supplier is active for one campus, but maybe it's not for yours. This view is called the Supplier 360, and probably the most important piece of information here is this: active business units. Clicking on the number values selected here is going to bring up this pop-up, and you're looking for your campus's business units. If you don't see it, there will be forms to fill out to get it modified and extended for your campus. Again, most important piece of the supplier profile for you guys is right here, because the common question is going to be, how do I know if the supplier is active for my campus? And that information is right here. Okay. Supplier statuses, that registration status, I'm just going to go back one here. Registration status is right here. None is that the supplier is loaded but not invited. So for one reason or another, we haven't sent a registration invitation to that supplier. Invited means that the invitation was sent, but the supplier hasn't done anything with it yet. In progress shows that the supplier has at least started it, but has not finished their registration. Profile complete is the supplier has submitted a registration, and approved indicates that the supplier team at the system level has reviewed and approved that registration. You'll also see active or not active for shopping. And when we go back here for in-network, we always want to make sure that number 2 is in-network. Oops. You can switch that to out-of-network. Don't do it. In-network shows you everything that's for CSU, the CSU as a whole. Out-of-network is the entire database of suppliers for Jagger. Jagger is the underlying system that CSUBUY is built on. We don't want to look at that. We want to look at everything that's for the CSU. All right. So just going back into the system, going to suppliers, manage suppliers, search for a supplier. This is our interface. We have our quick filters, in-network, status of active for shopping or not active for shopping. We can add filters. Maybe I only want to see ones that are approved. Our gear over here. If we want to add a column, you would just check it. If you want to remove it, maybe we want to add our DBA. And then maybe we want it to appear closer to the left. Apply those changes. And now we've got our company name, DBA, supplier class. It's a very good tool across the entire application. Shopping, you have access to, orders, you have access to search here, where you can do requisitions, POs, change requests. We'll talk about that stuff, but just wanted to kind of cover the search engine here without spending too much time on it. So what do we do if we search for a supplier and they're not in there, right? Because we need them and we got to create our non-catalog order, but there's no supplier profile. This is where we would complete a new supplier request. And our goal here is to learn how to do that. So it's a form that we'll fill out in the system. That form routes for review and approval by the CSU supplier management team. If approved, the supplier profile will be created. This supplier will be invited to register in that profile. And once the supplier completes their profile and the profile is approved, the notification is sent that the supplier is available for shopping. So just a quick here with this asterisk, it's possible for end user to get a notification that their request was rejected, but their supplier is still getting invited. So if you get a rejection notification when you have completed a supplier request, please just look at the comments, look at the history. I'll show you where to look for that in a second to understand what's actually going on, because there are some underlying processes that require us to occasionally reject those sorts of requests. But that doesn't mean you're not getting your supplier. Okay. So I'm just going to go into the app and show this. Skip over those two slides. We have two ways to get to this. We have our, whoops, shopping home. Shopping home. There we go. We have our request new supplier over here in the quick links, or we could get to it through supplier requests, request new supplier. That's going to take us to the same place. We would start with putting in our supplier name. There is some instructions on how to use this form, when it's appropriate to use this form, when to not use this form. Please review this before submitting any forms. This instructions tab, it lives on every form in the system. Please, please, please read these carefully to avoid things getting rejected unnecessarily. We'll go to next. We'll have some questions. Anything with a star is required. Here you can see the workflow. It's one of the nice things about this application is anytime you see this screen, you can tell where your document is going to stop for approvals and who is it's waiting on for approval. So a lot of visibility into the inner workings here. And then we're going to certify that everything I put in there was accurate and complete our request. And as I mentioned, you can go back in, look at pieces of history and whatnot. So, oops, don't go back that way. How are we doing on time, essays?
I think pretty good.
Okay. Okay, forms. So we talked about punch outs. Forms are our other way to request goods and services. So we're going to talk about shopping using a form. We want to learn where to look for forms, determine when to use each of the forms, and how to submit a form. These are the different types of forms that are available for use. Goods and service request, hospitality, independent contractor, IT hardware, IT software, payment for unauthorized purchase, and direct pay, if applicable. Not all campuses are using direct pay. So an important concept here is that with punch outs, it works the same way as like ordering from the website, right? The more items you add to your cart, every time you add a new item, you're creating a new line in your order. For forms, every form that you complete becomes a line. So if I was to go into the system and just need a general good that's not available through a punch out, I would complete that goods and services form, which I'll show you shortly. Completing that item or completing that form goes into your cart as a line. If you need to add lines, you need to add forms, and there's a couple different ways to do that. So a lot of us are going to need to do multi-line orders, right? So we'll build the first line as usual. And on the last screen, I'm calling this out now because I think it's just an important concept to understand, and it'll make sense once we actually get in and I show you the goods and services form start to finish. But at the end, we're basically given the option to, um, do I want to save this form that I've just finished and go to my cart? Or do I want to save this form that I've just finished, add it as a line, and then create another line? That's the best time to do this. So think about your order up front and try to make that decision on the front end. Am I going to need to do a multi-line order or is it a single line order? It's a lot easier to add lines while you're still in the form. If we need to add a line and we've already gone to our cart, there's a specific process for this. I'm going to show it to you. I don't want to focus too much on this slide yet here. It's nice to have for when you guys, if you need to review it and when you have the deck. So just know that this is here for your reference. But I think this is going to make a lot more sense if I just walk you through it start to finish. Best practice, if this is an important note. If a requisition has already been submitted and we decide we need to change lines or add lines, if it's been submitted, but it hasn't been approved all the way through yet, you should have the approver, the current approver, the buyer return it to you so that you can add that additional line. It is possible to remove lines. So you can, if you're looking at your draft cart, you can select the line and then there's an option to remove it. That's a very simple process. So if you decide you don't need something, you can remove the line. So our takeaways for forms, there are specific types of forms for the different types of requests. I would pay very close attention to the instructions on each form. A good way to get order rejected is to use the wrong form type. So you really want to start off from the right place by using the right form. Form requests contain required fields as well as conditional pages and fields. So they do adjust themselves to what you're ordering based off how you're answering questions. Direct payment forms, if the campus is using them, as well as the payment for unauthorized purchase form, automatically generate a voucher once approved. So just know that. And adding forms to a cart creates a line with the forms. To access the details of the form, users will need to go back into the form. Okay, what does all this actually look like? Who am I in? I'm in Shopper. Okay, so I've decided I need something from General. And to get it, I'm going to need to order it from a specific supplier, and I'm going to use my goods and services form. Our first page is instructions for that form. Again, this always exists. Please read this carefully. Our next tab is supplier selection. This selection is only going to show you suppliers that are configured for your campus. I'm just going to use the ACS group. And you can tell I've selected it here. You can also search. So if I just put ACS, enter, it's going to pull up the one that I want. Okay, form fields. This is where I'm actually saying what I need. So what type of good or services am I requesting? This drop down here drives a lot of what the form is going to ask as you work your way through it. So just for the sake of keeping things simple, I'm going to say goods other. Is this a blanket? No, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Is the request for a renewal of a previous purchase? Nope. Does the request include performance terms? Maybe it does. In this case, I'm going to say no. If you had said yes, again, conditional items are going to pop up. And we're going to say no to sole source. Just again, just trying to keep this simple. Skip right to cost details. So this is where I'm saying what I'm ordering and how much is it and how many of them do I need? If I have documentation to attach, if you say yes, it's going to prompt you to attach that documentation to the requisition. So once we get back into our cart and into checkout, that's when we're going to need to make that attachment. I'm just going to say $150 for 5 each. So we have a variety of unit of measures, depending on what's appropriate. And sometimes this commodity code is going to auto-populate. Other times I'll need to go in and select it. Again, it's driven by how I'm filling out the form. Click Next. So this is where I have a decision to make. Our form is done. We can add and go to cart, or we can save to cart and add another. If we need to add another line, this is the best time to do that. Saving to cart and adding another essentially duplicates the form that I just completed and allows me to modify that form. So save to cart and add another. Oh, shoot. Delete that. Michael, what's the saying? Before you start, clear your cart.
Yes, before you start, check your cart or clear your cart.
So save to cart, add another. Oh, I just added it again. There you go, Brian. Doing a good job here. Okay, so our supplier is still in there. Our form fields are still in there. And our cost details are all still in there. So maybe for this one, line 2, maybe this is $100 and we need 2 of them. And this time I'm going to add and go to cart. And because I got click happy, there are 3 lines in here. This is a duplicate that I accidentally created because I got impatient. I want to remove it. So if I just check at that line level, go to this caret here for actions and remove selected items. So we have 2 lines, each with its own form. And if I want to change the line, I need to go back into the form by clicking right here. So now I'm back in that form. So this one should have that line 2 cost details. And this is the important bit. If I go to review and submit, I don't want to add, I don't want to go back to my cart here because that's going to create another line. I want to use back to cart here. Okay, so we've looked at the goods and services. We selected supplier, filled in form fields. We added the items to our cart. We added the additional line. Let's talk about some of the other forms. Direct pay, again, this one may or may not be available to the specific campus. Some campuses have said we don't want this. Other campuses have it turned on. The direct pay process may be needed when a purchase does not require a PO, such as for memberships or other non-procurement related payments. Request to close PO. A PO may need to be manually closed if the order is complete, but the system still shows an update status due. Extension or reinvite. So thinking back to when we talked about the supplier profile, that 360 field, does the supplier have your campus's business unit? If the supplier exists and is active for other campuses but not yours, you would need to fill out this extension form. It lives in that miscellaneous. So if I go back home here, right in here, miscellaneous, request to close PO, supplier extension reinvite. Okay, takeaways. Some form requests don't create a line item in the cart. Examples would be the new supplier request or request to close PO. Direct payment form request creates a line item in a cart. The cart becomes a requisition, and then once approved, a PO. The PO is not sent to the supplier or exported to CFS. Direct payments auto create the voucher once approved. So just a couple of takeaways there. And as I've said, direct payment requests only apply to certain campuses.
Hey, Brian,
Yeah.
before we get started on blanket orders, I want to make sure everyone on the call understands that you are not live yet. If you're trying to log in, you're getting an application error, your campuses are not live. Won't be live until Monday. And this system, while it looks very similar to the marketplace, is totally separate. So if you're trying to go into the marketplace and do any of these actions, you likely cannot do that. So these are two separate systems, and I just wanted everyone to understand that this one is not live and you can't get in until Monday. Also, we're doing our very best to answer all your questions. There's 2,400 of you and only a couple of us. So we're trying our best to get to all of your questions, and just hang tight with us.
Yeah, and just to maybe calm some anxiety, there's going to be lots of opportunity to get help, lots of opportunity to ask questions. Today's goal is to give you a look at it, right? And hopefully give you a little bit of orientation. I don't know how many people have seen it before or how many people this is the first time. Unfortunately, there's a lot of material, so I am moving a little bit quicker than maybe I'd like to. But we're not going anywhere. We're all here to help you over the next, I don't know, 6 weeks or whatever hypercare is. So there is a plan. What was that?
There's the other part is that your campus will be doing training once you are live. So you'll want to reach out to your campus teams, your project teams. If you don't know when the trainings are going to happen, those will be walking you through. They'll have online Zoom sessions dropping in. So there's going to be a lot of resources for you. This is meant to be kind of that overview, get you kind of warmed up for the trainings that are going to begin next week at your campus. And those will be really valuable because they can talk your same language, your business units, where there's 14 campuses on this call. So I just wanted to also let you know that you do have training that is coming once you are live. So kind of save up some purchases for next week, and then your local team can help you through that.
Okay, ready to get back into it? Let's talk blankets.
Let's go.
Okay, so for this, we want to talk about when blanket orders are applicable and indicate a request is a blanket order. So blankets, a purchase agreement that allows multiple deliveries of goods or services over a set period. It's to simplify repeat ordering. So anytime that we have multiple payments, we want to indicate that our order is a blanket, amount only POs. They're both processed very similarly. Amount only PO usually services with multiple payments for each line. Okay, so thinking about when we're building our order, is it a one-time thing or is it happening multiple times with multiple payments? And we want to keep that all on one order. A blanket may be goods or services with multiple payments, right? It can even be for goods only like items from a hardware store, but it is processed as amount only PO. So pretty similar here. I'm going to show you how to get one of these set up. So there was one of the questions that I skimmed over on the goods and services. Right after I said, what type of goods or services are you requesting? The next question is this a blanket order? So for this, you would want to say yes. And then additionally, when you're in checkout, you would want to indicate that it is amount only blanket PO. So that's a custom field that we manually edit. And that does have some configuration implications throughout workflow. So that means that the field has impacts as approvers are looking at it and how it gets transferred into CFS. So really important that when we're doing blankets or amount onlys, that gets checked. When a PO is marked as amount only blanket PO, each line should have a quantity of 1. The unit of measure can be each or lot. The total dollar amount of the line should be the unit price. Okay. When an amount only PO integrates with CFS, CFS will automatically change that quantity to 1. So those are 2 important call outs. An example of one, a line on a consulting agreement PO should be like this: quantity of 1, unit of measure, lot, unit price, 15,000, extension price, 15,000. So you wouldn't want to do unit of measure hours, unit price 150. We want that that unit of measure to be lot. So blanket orders should only be used for goods or services that require multiple payments. There are 2 ways to indicate that an order is a blanket order. However, only one method ensures it is processed correctly, and that is to indicate it on the requisition during checkout by checking that custom field blanket PO. I'll show you that process in a second. When marked this way, the entire PO acts as a drawdown PO, remaining open until the total dollar amount has been fully vouchered. Each line on an amount-only blanket PO should have a quantity of 1. A PO must be entirely by quantity or by amount. It cannot contain a mix of both line types. All right. Which one am I in? I am in Rocky. So shopping home, general, goods and services form. Going to
Can you make it a
search
little
for.
bit bigger, Brian?
I can.
Thank you.
ACS, just because I know that supplier, I'm going to pull that one in. All right, form fields. So now maybe I'm selecting services other. I'm going to say yes, this is a blanket. Is this a request for renewal? No. Performance start and end dates, maybe. Maybe not. Again, this is where you're building your order. Cost details. Unit price, 15,000. Quantity. Remember, we need to have a quantity of 1. Unit of measure, we'll pick lot. Demo blanket. Line 1. And we have to pick our commodity code because I went with just a general services. Do that one. And I'm going to go ahead and just put this into my cart, which has a bunch of stuff in it that I didn't. Before you start, clear your cart. Michael McNairn's rolling his eyes at me right now. Okay. So we have our blanket line, 15,000, quantity one lot, and our commodity general services. I'm going to go to checkout. And this is our requisition document. This is where we're going to say things like our ship to address here, bill to address, deliver to information. So probably the big call outs here are where do we need to send things to? Are there any modifications that we need to make to the purchase order when that's created? Um, who are our users that are involved? We'll talk about this in a few minutes. Prepared by, prepared for, and our chart fields at the bottom. On this area, this is a section we call checkout validation. This is going to tell us if there's anything that's missing that's preventing us from submitting. So I am signed in as a requester. I do have the ability to submit a cart, but my submission button up here is locked. I can't click it because I have these errors that I need to resolve here. I'm missing a business unit, I'm missing a fund, and I'm also getting a different message. So let me fix the business unit and the fund. And this is where you'd want to make sure you're putting in a valid chart string. So I've given it the business unit, the debt ID, and the fund. It's still telling me, though, that I'm missing something. It's because I indicated on the requisition form that a purchase is a blanket, but I didn't check this bit right here. So as long as you check that box on the goods and services form that it's a blanket, the system's not going to let you move forward without punching this button here. When you're modifying requisitions, or in this case, your request, it hasn't actually made it into requisition approvals yet. But whenever you want to modify the screen, you're looking for things like pencils or three dots give you additional options. You can hide fields. But in this case, we're going to click this pencil right here and check amount only blanket. And now that submit request button is active. Multi-years. Multi-years are very similar to what we just did. We're indicating that it's a blanket, but we have to add multiple years, and we call them penny lines because you're going to have one line for the current year that is the dollar amount for that year. And then every line that you add for subsequent years, it's going to be quantity one, 1 penny. So multi-year POs are blanket orders with separate lines for each year. Be sure to mark a multi-year PO as a blanket order. Like amount only blankets, blanket POs, multi-year POs should have each line as quantity one and 1 penny. So I'm going to go back into that order that I was just working on, and I'm going to go ahead and just add another year.
Brian,
Yeah.
can I interject just one quick
Yes.
piece
Yes.
here? For a multi-year order, if you had this is a 2-year order that Brian's working on, you would want to put both years on line 1 and have that approved. And then once it gets to your procurement team, they will reduce line 1 down to whatever year 1 is. We want to make sure the delegation of authority goes to the correct DOA person. So it is recommended that you initially request the full amount of your multi-year so that it gets approved appropriately. And then your procurement team goes in and adjusts the subsequent years down to a penny. But the pennies will remind them that they need to do that.
Is that done through a change request on the back end?
That depends on the campus. Some
Okay.
campuses will like a change request saying, hey, it's year 2. Can you add the 15,000? So that's preferable, I would think. If not, then the procurement team can look at it and say, oh, hey, I need to add that 15,000. So you'd want to check with your procurement team on that.
So just to make sure I'm following, so that way we know everyone else is. If
Yeah.
if this was for over 2 years and it was supposed to be for $30,000, for 15 for the first year, 15 for the second year, you would want this entered as line one, $30,000 without line two
Correct.
created, or would you want them to create
Or
line two with the
I would
penny?
create the second line. I would create the second line at a penny. So it would really be 30,001 cent. And it's marked as a multi-year. And then when it comes to procurement, they would reduce line 1 down to 15,000 and leave your penny line there.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and add the penny
That's my
line.
recommendation. Yeah, but add your penny line for sure.
Hopefully that made sense to everybody. It did to me. So, again, these are the use cases that why our essays are so valuable to this process. Um, we're not in any forms, but remember, a line is a form. So we have to add a line, add a duplicate form to this order. We're still in draft, nothing's submitted. So what I would do is I would go to my line here and check it. And if I just go to this arrow, I can say add to draft or pending PRPO. This is my active cart. 4455313 matches the number in the upper left. When I click that, I always have to refresh my screen. Welcome to Jagger. So you refresh your screen. Now we have 2 items. 15,000 line 1, and we've copied it. 15,000 line 1. We need it to be a penny line. So we have our top goods and services form for line 1 and our goods and services form for line 2. I'm going to go into the goods and services form for line 2. Form fields, cost details, and I'm going to change this to 1 cent. Line 2, I would imagine you'd call it like maybe year 2 of 2 or 1 of 2, depending on how you want to name your lines. Save progress, upper right, and then back to the requisition. Now, when we scroll down, we have 2 items. Demo blanket line 1 for 15,000 and demo blanket line 2 for 1 cent. When we copied that form, it didn't copy the chart field. So if it's a different chart field, we would want to go in, click our pencil, and edit the chart field. However, maybe it's the same. We have this copy line 1 chart field button. It's pulling up all the other lines on the document. So in this case, it's saying line 2. Do you want to copy line 1's chart field to line 2? Yes, I do. Check that line, copy. I guess one thing I didn't mention either would be splits. So if we need to split a chart field between multiple strings, you go into that chart field and there's this little plus button, add split, and that's going to add another row. And you can do that as many times as you need to if you need to split things across chart fields. Oh, forgot to do one thing. Going back to the top, another piece of information. This top section here, this is our header level information. So when you work with folks, you might hear them call this header level. And then below that, we have our line level. So once you get to this divider saying 2 items, this is our line level information. Our header level, we got to indicate this is a multi-year. So we would check that, save it. And then if we were ready to, we could submit our request. Go ahead and do that.
Hey, Brian,
Yeah.
want to take a look at the on the header where folks can upload documents. So
Sure.
quotes and maybe a contract, things like that.
So internal notes, I just submitted it, so that's why you don't see the pencils here anymore. Let me go into one that, let me just do this. I'm getting ahead of ourselves now. Copy to cart. Show you guys that in a minute. So we have our pencils back because we're in draft. Internal notes and attachments. Internal is just for CSU. External goes to the supplier. So if you have something that you want to keep to us, to CSU, whether it's a note or an attachment, it would go here. External would be here, and you just click the pencil, and it gives you the chance to save a note or add your attachment. Sarah, since you brought that up, do you have examples of when you would want to use internal versus external that would be relevant?
Yeah, I would think most of the time you would not be entering things in external notes. That's usually for your procurement department to do. Your internal notes and attachments would be those quotes that you receive from the supplier, any contract documents that they send you, and anything, you know, that is kind of normal that you would attach to a requisition that your procurement folks need to take a look at.
One global comment. Anytime you are saving a note or making a comment to another user, we'll talk about comments in a little bit. Everything can be seen by everybody. So play nice with each other. Because even if you can delete it, it still lives in history. So it's always there. Okay, we've talked about multi-years. Let's talk about cart management. So assigning a shopping cart. This comes into play when we're looking at campuses that A, use the shopper and the requester roles, or B, maybe you have a few different people that want to put stuff in a cart and you want to be able to pass a cart around and add stuff to it. So the first thing is to just understand where your carts are. There's a quick links that takes you to your cart screen, or you can get to it through shop, my carts and orders, and view carts. When you hear people say create a new cart, maybe something has created a conflict and we need to start over, and they say, did you create a new cart? This is where we go to do that. So this is an important area of the application to get a little familiar with. I'll show you guys that in a second, where to go and how to create that new cart. This is where you would actually go to assign a cart. So I'm a shopper. I've put some things in a cart and I can't submit it because I don't have submission privileges. So you would go to click that assign cart button, and then you look for the user that you want to assign the cart to. And you're going to want to assign it to somebody that has that requester role so that way they can actually submit the request for you. And then you would click assign, and that process is then complete. So again, we're allowing collaboration or review by others before that final submission. I think that the biggest use case for this, and Sarah, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, the biggest use case is for campuses that use that shopper role. I don't know how often carts are being passed around between requesters, but it probably does happen from time to time.
Yeah, I would think so.
I called out earlier on the requisition document that prepared by versus prepared for. Prepared by is the user that submitted the cart into workflow. So when I say workflow, I mean the approval process, that step-by-step process of who is looking at that order, who is approving it. Prepared by the user that submits the cart. They may have created the cart. They may have been assigned the cart by another user, but they must have the requester role. Prepared for is the user that created the cart. If it's a shopper, they must assign the cart to a requester. This user becomes the PO owner, the purchase order owner. That's important because that person might have responsibilities on the back end during receiving or during voucher approval to say, yes, I got this item, or yes, this service was completed. Also important to note, either user prepared by or prepared for, they cannot approve their own orders. So if there's any users, any folks on this training or this overview that are also doing approver training over the next couple days, you cannot approve your own orders. If you submit it and it comes to you in workflow, you will not be able to approve it. All right, so assign a shopping cart. Let's look at this real quick. I am in a shopper role. Just gonna fly through a goods and services form real quick. One thing, this is something to keep in mind. You can't see some of this over here. This pop out on the right-hand side can sometimes cover some of the form. So we're gonna want to hide that. Screen dimensions can cause headaches, so I like to hide that. We've got our supplier. So I can say my deliver to location. I've got my line in my cart. I can proceed to checkout. So I'm looking at that requisition document, and it'll even let me put in fund and debt ID. But I don't have that submit button. I only have the assign cart button. And if you recall, when I was looking at it from the requester's view, I had the assign cart and the submit button. So either user can assign. So if I click this, I want to search for Rocky Requester, assign cart to Rocky Requester. I can send them a note when I do this. I can add them to my profile, which basically creates them as a favorite. So if I'm always sending stuff to Rocky, I can create a little shortcut for myself. I'm just going to go ahead and assign this. And now this is Rocky. I'm going to go home. Home shopping. Action items. I just had a cart assigned to me from Sally Shopper. I can go into that cart. I can proceed to checkout. I'm seeing all that same stuff that Sally Shopper put together. The only difference is now I can submit that to workflow. Okay, copy to cart. these are two shortcuts to getting things that we've already ordered into our cart. Copy to cart is a way to reorder an entire order. So if you had an order with um, a few different lines, you would go to the top of that order. There's these three dots right here. When you click on that, you just say copy to new cart, and that's going to bring all of those lines into the new cart. It does not bring in chart field information, so you would need to repopulate that. I think I'm gonna, Sarah, I'm getting a little concerned about time. There's still a decent amount to go here.
And I would recommend, Brian, if you don't mind, this Carrie, like at least like 5 minutes before we close to share the campus project leads, their contacts, because we're getting lots of questions on who the campus project lead is that they can reach out to for trainings, for questions, for
Okay.
campus specific configurations.
Okay. And they're gonna get the deck, right?
They're going to get the deck, but this doesn't help with the campus configurations because we're doing very global, high level. This is what this system can do.
Right, but that slides in the deck. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we get to it because
Okay. I will keep moving. Um, so shop my orders. Going into my orders, you can go into my requisitions. This is going to show you by default all the orders that you've placed in the last 90 days. This trips up a lot of people here. So just know that it's here and it defaults to last 90. I could go into this requisition number. Let me talk about the next thing first, real quick. So these three dots, this is the requisition actions at the top, and I can just copy to new cart. Doing that is going to bring everything in this order, in this case, just one item, but everything in this order into my cart. The other shortcut is we call it reorder. This is more of a line by line selection. So if I'm looking at an order that had 3 or 4 lines on it, but I only want one, you check that line and then hit the down arrow, and that's going to give you the option to add that line to the active cart. So just to illustrate both of those here, we have at the top requisition actions, copy to new cart, or if this was a multi-line, checking the line that I want, and then actions for selected item you add to the active cart, to draft cart, or draft change request. That's a nice little call out for something we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So just a couple things, a couple ways, like if you're reordering something all the time, you're always kind of placing that same order. Um, just know that there's shortcuts to get all that information into your cart and submit. You don't necessarily have to fill out that same form over and over and over again. Or if it's maybe a form that you are filling out the same way, there's ways for you to save that form. Okay. Um, Shop with persona. So personas allow us to switch between business units. Um, some users on this call will need to switch between personas, others won't. It really just depends on if you're purchasing for one BU all the time or if you're purchasing for different BUs. Changing your persona allows you to shop from different business units. The first question you should ask yourself is, um, am I in the business unit that I need to shop for? If not, I'm going to change. But when I change, I want to create a new cart. So this is always your first step when you're changing personas is to create a new cart because changing your persona, it's shifting the business unit you're shopping in, which can create conflicts in pre-existing carts. Okay. So you're always going to want to go into that um, shopping area, or there's that quick link to your view carts. And when you get into your view carts, there's a button that says create cart. This is your friend, especially if you're a persona shopper. Every time you change personas, you're gonna want to create a new cart. It's just gonna save you a lot of potential headaches. Changing your persona lets you order on behalf of different business units, ensuring the correct accounts, budgets, and approvals are applied. You would click on your user icon, the person in the upper right. And then number 2 down here, change your shopping persona. 3, there would be a list of the personas that you have. And this is controlled by your primary permission list in CFS. So some users might have multiple, some users might not have any. But changing your persona changes the business unit you're shopping in. And then in the upper left-hand corner, so that's our home button right here, you would get this tag that says shopping as, and then the name of that persona. So it's always there for you to see that you're in that persona. Okay, withdraw a requisition. Maybe you've submitted a requisition to workflow and you decide that you don't need it. You would go into the requisition. There is the requisition actions, or the red button that says withdraw entire requisition. Clicking that will prompt you to say why you're withdrawing it. And then you click OK, and it's withdrawn. This can be done at any point while the requisition is in the approval process. Once a requisition is fully approved and has been put into purchase order workflow, it can't be withdrawn. Also, withdrawing it makes it so that you can't edit it. It effectively kills the requisition. You can copy what's in it to a new cart if you needed to, using what we just talked about, but that requisition number would be done. You would need to start a new requisition with a new cart. Show that real quick. So for this example, I need a requisition that I have submitted, but has not been put through workflow all the way yet. So if I go to orders, my requisitions, I can see that this one here is pending in the requisition status, which indicates it's still in workflow. If I go into it, I can see that workflow on the right. This is what we're talking about when we say workflow. This is everywhere that document's going to stop. A lot of these steps are automated. The only one here that we're showing that's really not is this one here. So this is where the buyer would take a look at it. But in this case, see this button here, withdraw entire requisition. It's also under the actions. So you've got 2 different ways to do the exact same thing. If I click this, I'll be prompted with that box and say demo and click OK. And now that's withdrawn. So if you decide you don't need it and it's still in approvals, you can withdraw it yourself. Okay, purchase order changes. We have 2 different processes within CSUBUY to change a purchase order. So a requisition is fully approved. At that point, it becomes a purchase order, which is distributed to the vendor, the supplier. Maybe we've decided after the fact that we need to make a change to that purchase order. This is whoops. Sorry, guys. Hit my scroll. This is the 2 processes that we have to do that. Change orders for buyers. So we don't really need to worry about this one on this call. Change request is the process of requesting a change to a PO, and that change will go back through that workflow that we just talked about. What approvals will it require? This can be submitted by anybody. So if this user group needs to make a change to a PO, they would use the change request process. The change request process updates a purchase order by resubmitting it through the requisition approval workflow for review and approval before the revised PO is finalized. So we've got a completed PO. The user decides they need to make a change, so they complete the change request. That change request is submitted. It goes through workflow. Once it's approved through workflow, the PO is updated and a new version is created. I will show you the areas that you can edit and how to create the change request, but before I do that, I want to talk about how to add a line to a change request, because this is, I think, maybe one of the more common things that we run into issues with. So, in order to add a line, you're always going to start with creating a draft change request. That's always the first start. Whatever change we want to make, we need to create a draft. And remember, if it's a punch out, we can't add lines. We can't do anything with that. So this only applies to forms and non-catalog orders. So we would start with the purchase order. So we go to our purchase order and we click purchase order actions and we create a change request. This is our first step. And we need this to happen because if we're going to add a line, we need to be able to tell the system where we need to add that line. So this has to exist first. So we'd create a new line by completing a new form. On the review and submit screen, the down caret is going to have an option, add to draft change request. Once you've added it to that draft change request, you can go back to the change request and complete your submission. So this is just another screen outlining what I just said. So we would return back to that PO. We would go to the change request, and you can see on there what all has been added to it. Okay, from PO, let's show this. So this is, I went into the purchase order. Purchase orders are the best place to look for information. There's links to the original requisition, change requests if they exist. You can get to receipts, vouchers, all kinds of good information in here. This is kind of your main hub is looking at it through the purchase order. So my first step, like I said, is to create change requests. So I'm in a purchase order. It is completed workflow, meaning that a purchase order has been distributed to a supplier, and I need to make a change. So I'm going to create a change request. This pop-up is who am I notifying? This screen looks very similar to that requisition document, right? When we were building carts and submitting orders earlier. The only difference is that we're changing some piece of information. Maybe we are changing one of the addresses. When we make a change, it highlights it. So the people that review this order when it goes back through this change request, when it goes back through Workflow know easily what has been changed. It's highlighted for them. Okay, maybe we need to add another line. Remember can I? No. So we have our change request number, 405. You need to kind of remember that. Oh. Going to complete another goods and services. Remember, form equals line. So I'm going to create that line by filling out another form. Just going to call it change request line. Supplies, just general supplies. So we have our form completed. Going to go to next. So now we're at review and submit. And I'm going to hit my down arrow. And this time I'm going to add to draft change request. There's that draft change request that we just created. That's why you need to create this first. So we can tell CSUBUY where are we adding this form to. Successfully added. Go to orders, my orders. Now it's still a draft, so it doesn't actually exist under my change requests. So if I go back to my purchase orders, this one was 705. Go into the PO. This was something I was working with earlier. We still have this one in draft. This is that change request that we just created, 405. We've changed the address. We've added a line. But remember, just because we added a line doesn't mean we're done. We still need to add that business unit fund and depth ID, and we know that because we're getting this error here. I'm going to use my shortcut where I copy line 1's chart field to line 2. And now we can submit the request to workflow. Okay, receiving. There are certain situations where users might need to go into the system and say, I received good, or I'm indicating that a service has been completed. So we're going to talk about what types of items need a receipt, learn the difference between two-way and three-way matching, and as well as central desktop hybrid receiving, and so on. So desktop versus central, this varies by campus. Some campuses have their shipping dock folks receive items. Some campuses have receiving completed at desktop. So I ordered the stapler went through the shipping dock, but then came to me, and I'm going to receive it. That's just an example. Um, or hybrid, where sometimes we're doing desktop and sometimes we're doing central. Again, that varies by campus and something you'll need to chat with your campus leadership about if you have questions. Two-way versus three-way. This determines what type of receipt the system needs. So a two-way match is all we need to do is verify that a service was completed, and that's done through an approval process that I'll show you shortly. And it's the system decides it's two-way match because we haven't called an item an asset. We haven't indicated that it's a high-risk commodity code, and those high-risk commodity codes are listed down here. Or it's not indicated as receiving required on the requisition. If any of these three things is true, the system is going to force three-way match, which means we have to go into the application and create a receipt. So two different ways of doing kind of the same thing. Has that service been completed, or have we received that good? The system is dictating to us which one it wants. So steps for receiving if it's a three-way. So if we've received a good and we need to create a receipt. So we'll locate the PO, create the receipt, and complete and submit the receipt. Just a few takeaways for returns, because that does happen. Always communicate and coordinate the return directly with the supplier. There is no built-in return process within CSUBUY. Some punch-out sites may include a return process which has a direct communication with the supplier. And some things to keep in mind about all that. All right, let's create a receipt. So I went to a list of my POs. I know because I created this that 6706 is IT hardware. I use the IT hardware form, the IT hardware request, and because it's IT hardware, that's one of those risk commodities that's going to force a three-way match. So this is an order that's going to require, think back to when we talked about the PO owner. That PO owner is going to be prompted through workflow to receive it, or when they receive those goods, they should know to go in and physically complete that receipt. Two ways to get to receipts: purchase order actions, create receipt, or receipts have their own tab. And if you click this plus button, that will also prompt you to create a receipt. So it just kind of depends on if you want to see what's already in there, or if you just want to go from the purchase order actions. Both of these are going to take you to the same place where we're going to be asked, and this is a single line order. If there was multiple line orders or multiple quantities, it would say, how much of this do you want to receive? Is it one line? Is it two lines? If it's a quantity of five, did you get all five? So you're tailoring what you're putting back in here to actually build your receipt. So I'm going to create my quantity receipt. I ordered one laptop for this price. We open up the receipt document. We're saying quantity one, received. As we make changes, we can save updates. Sarah, I'm going to lean on you here. We don't really have much required. I don't know if there's any best practices for what you would want folks to put in here, like maybe packing slip number. I'm not sure if there's things that are considered best practice.
No, that is up to the campus specifically. If they would, there's something specific on there, but there's nothing required. So, yeah, unless the campus directs you to put a packing slip number or tracking number or something like that, you don't have to put anything but how many you receive.
Yep. So in this case, we got one in. So I'm going to complete up in the upper right. And now we've created our receipt for that good. If we go back to the PO, remember I said our PO is kind of our hub for information. We can get back to the original requisition. We can see receipts. If there was vouchers, we could see vouchers. How are we doing on time? All right, we're getting our backs against the wall on time here, guys. I apologize. Verified receiving. This is a two-way match indicating the system's telling us we need to have that PO owner go into the system and actually tell us through approval that this service was completed. So what happens is a voucher is created in the system. That voucher interprets the order as being a two-way order. And in the approval workflow for that order or for that voucher over here, it's going to say this was a two-way order. On this voucher, we need the PO owner, in this case it's Laura Bennett, but it's looking for who that original PO owner was, to go in and approve the voucher out of this step to say, yes, we have verified that the order has been completed, that service was rendered. So three-way match receipt is required. That document is required. We have to create the receipt. Two-way match, voucher approval, a verified receive step is required. Commodity codes can determine the receipt requirement. Buyers can override the receipt requirement. Amount only and blanket orders may require a cost receipt, and campuses can be central receiving, desktop receiving, or a hybrid of both. Okay, so now module 7, this is our last one. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go through this a little bit on the quicker side. So I want to get you guys out on time. But we're going to talk about our voucher process really quick. So there's a few different ways vouchers can come back into the system. The main one that we're seeing right now is the PO flip, where the supplier sends us an invoice with email, mail, whatever, and then we're creating the voucher based off of that. We can look at vouchers through the accounts payable flyout. That search we talked about for suppliers, this is another screenshot of the voucher search. Very similar layout. It's just, how we're tailoring our filters. Voucher approvals. This is really, I think, the take home for folks. So I want to maybe spend what little time we have left on this. So let's say we've got our two-way order, right? This is what voucher approval looks for, or what looks like. Two-way orders are going to stop here. Each one of these boxes is a step in voucher workflow. Some of them are automated. Some of them go to people, like maybe AP manager or AP review. Those are all people saying, yes, this voucher looks good. This is the step where it stops for that original order or that PO owner to go in and say, yes, this voucher is okay because the person came in and gave the talk, or whatever the reason for that service was. To get to these approvals, you need to go into the voucher approval queue, which is under, that one's in the wrong place. It's under accounts payable, approvals, vouchers to approve. It takes you to this screen here where you have a folder that opens up and shows you all the orders that you need to look at and approve. To approve an order, you need to assign it to yourself. So you select it, you assign it to yourself, and then you can go into it and approve it. There are multiple approval actions. Approve the voucher, meaning it's good, send it on. Return to shared folder means I've assigned it to myself. I want to put it back. I don't want it assigned to me anymore. Place a voucher on hold. Forward a voucher, reject a voucher, or add substitute approver. Substitute approvers, since in this role, a person is acting as an approver, if someone's going to be out of town or you need to just have somebody act in your favor, you can assign a substitute. Oops. You can do this by going to the accounts payable flyout, approvals, assign substitute approvers, and then you're given this prompt. Who is the approver? When are you starting your leave? And when are you coming back? An important thing about substitutes, the system does not know if this person is appropriate or not to act as an approver. So the end user assigning the substitute needs to make sure that the person they're putting in is appropriate. This is not validated by the system. Okay. review and act on a voucher. Actions that you take as an approver are approve, forward, reject, or put on hold. Note that you have to assign the voucher to yourself to see the approver options. You can assign yourself as a substitute approver for when you're out of the office. Really quick, accounts payable, approvals, vouchers to approve. I currently have 2. If I go into the voucher and I look at the workflow, I can see that it's pending Rocky requester approval. That's the user that I am right now. And in this case, I can just approve complete and it moves on. So that is me saying that this service, why did it not go? Oh, because it went to the next order. That's right. I'm looking, when you approve, it goes to the next result. But you saying, or you giving your approval in that situation, it's saying, yes, that service was completed. Voucher payment information.
I think we might be wrapping up, Brian.
Yep.
I'm not sure, but
Okay.
I know people want to. This slide deck is shared with the campus project leads. It's not shared with everybody that's in attendance, so they really would like to know who they should reach
Okay.
out to. And just so everybody knows, we will share this slide deck and the recording with your campus project team, and then they will take it from there and post it to their campus procure to pay page so that it's accessible for everybody.
So I think this is the campus contacts page that you wanted to show.
Yes, please. So we got lots of questions, like they haven't been invited to trainings, they're concerned about their roles, or a lot about training. So these are the individuals that we have for your contact for your campus to reach out to them regarding when the training sessions are and who should be invited and any of those types of questions. I didn't mean to interject. I just know that we were.
No, the only thing that I think is that we missed is comments, but I think that the campuses, if they're having their own trainings, they'll talk about that. Comments is just a way to communicate within the system. So.
And if anybody's on this call and your colleague had to jump off, because we did see some people had to leave at 3, please feel free to do a screen share or a Snagit with this information and share it out with your colleagues.
I think that's all we have for today. So thank you so much for your attendance and for all the great questions. And hopefully we got through a lot of the answers. We'll still, like Carrie said, we'll send it to the people on this list that you're looking at. There were a lot of questions about specific scenarios with your campus. Your procurement teams are really going to be the best people to answer that. They are the ones that are going to tell you, hey, this is how you should set up this order or that order. The system can do a lot of things, whether that's something that your campus individually wants, ways to set it up. There's little tweaks that can be done locally. So I just really encourage you to don't stress. It's going to be fine. And next week you'll have a lot of one-on or a group training, but a lot of easier one-on-one questions and stuff about your individual campus. So thanks again. We appreciate it. And we'll see you at the next one.